Hey guys, Kirby fan here. Real quick before we start the video today, I forgot to mention that I got my information from the Seesaw wiki. I have it on the screen. I'll have it linked in the description as well. And you know I gotta bring this up real quick. I'm sorry if it annoys you that I say this. I have to ask. If you like the video, please give it a like, give it a comment. Let me know if you want to see a video like this or what you think about the abilities. And especially, I'd really love it if you subscribed, because looking at my subscriber statistics, a surprising amount of you are not subscribed to the channel. So if you would like to give me a subscription, I'd super appreciate it. We're so close to 800. 600 and 700 sub videos are along the way. So with all that said, enough of this dilly-dallying stuff. Let's just get into the fun. Let's tier list. Hey everybody, Kirby fan here for a Kirby tier list video. I know it's been a while, and I probably could have saved this for Kirby month and gotten away with it, but this is a video that I've actually been requested to do more than you'd expect. This is an objective tier list on how quickly a copy ability can clear the true arena in Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Now, Return to Dreamland specifically hasn't so much been requested, but the tier abilities on how good they are at the boss rush, I have been asked to do that multiple times. And I figured Return to Dreamland would be a great one just because I love the game a lot, and unlike Planet Robobot, I really love the true arena in it. And, you know, with all that being said, rules for the tiers and stuff, I do have parameters in place. For example, the D tier, abilities fall in the D tier if it takes 9 minutes or more to clear the true arena with that ability. Now, 9 minutes might sound like not that much time considering we're talking about Return to Dreamland's true arena, but comparatively to other abilities, it's a fair amount of time. So to go over all of them, as I said, D tier, 9 and above. C tier is if it takes between 8.5 minutes and 9 minutes. B tier is if it takes between 8 minutes and 8.5. A tier is if it takes between 7.5 minutes and 8. S tier, I mixed it up a little bit. I did it so if it was 6.5 minutes and 7.5 minutes, so there's a bit of a longer period in there. And then the SS tier, I just reserved it for the best ability. I'm not going to tell you how fast it is, but it's pretty fast. It's pretty fast. So with all that said, let's not waste any time. Which ability in Kirby's Return to Dreamland takes the longest? Sleep. Okay, but so right now you're probably looking at the screen thinking, Kirby fan just did some editing magic. What the heck happened? I was looking at the tier maker and I saw sleep and realized that not all the abilities here are actually usable in the true arena. So we're gonna put sleep up here. We're going to put Crash up here. We're going to put Mike up here. And those are the only ones. I believe every other ability in the game is usable. Looking them over real quick, it looks like it. So, back to the original question. Which ability in Kirby's Return to Dreamland is the worst? If you know about my copy ability Spotlight series, you should actually know the answer already, because in the high jump episode, I went over this. High jump is the worst ability to use for the true arena. It's just not a good look. It takes high jump a really long 12 minutes and 3 seconds to get through it, as far as, you know, current world record and all that stuff. It's not very strong. It does not deal damage particularly quickly. And worst of all, it just, in a game where abilities really got tools, and high jump basically got nothing. It got a downward jump, which helps technically in, you know, the strictest sense. And it got a charge attack that makes it stronger, but it takes longer. Not a good look for high jump at all. And when you look at the second lowest, which is Spark, that is sitting at 10 minutes and 38 seconds. That's almost a minute and a half shorter for the second worst ability in the game. Now, to make a point clear, I do acknowledge that Spark is ridiculously good in the main campaign, and I also acknowledge that if you're using TAS, tool-assisted speedrun, Spark is actually very good because a lot of its problems don't really exist. But we're not looking at what a tool can do, we're looking at what a person can do. And when we look at what a person can do, I do see potential in Spark, but currently nobody is willing to hurt their body so much as to make Spark particularly good. And if you have to hurt your body in order to make Spark work anyway, no. Bad ability for defeating the bosses, but hey, it's one of the easiest, most brain-dead abilities to use for the main campaign, so it's fine, right? The last ability in D tier, the only other ability that takes more than 9 minutes, makes me sad because it had such a hard career, so to speak. Needle, not good. It's 9 minutes and 13 seconds, so it's substantially better than both Spark and especially High Jump. But basically what that says is that it's one of the worst, but compared to the actual worst, it's okay. It just does not deal a lot of damage very quickly, and that's what you're going to see that a lot of the lower ones. These three definitely have that point in common a lot. They just don't do a lot of damage, and they're very weak. I guess Spark is kind of strong. I mean, not really, but I mean, they're still weak. They don't do that much damage. They are not meant for the boss rush modes, and that's what you'd think, but Needle is actually the one that does kind of belong in the boss rush. That's its main perk. But don't worry, they get a little better from here. Not much, but things get a little bit better from here. The next ability just barely manages to miss the cut for D tier. We are moving up into the C tier, where they stop being bad and they're passable. This one barely. This one's 8 minutes and 56 seconds, and that's Tornado. Another one that I did a copy ability spotlight on that you should have known the answer for. Tornado is excellent against Landia, surprisingly, because Landia's crown... If you hit Landia's crown, you deal more damage. And because of the way that Tornado works, with the big Tornado hitbox, if you use that attack on Landia, you're guaranteed to hit the crown, and you're just going to do tons of damage. But other than that, Tornado is not good in the boss rush. It does not do much damage. It's fast. It could definitely get to the boss quick enough, which is merit enough to give it into C, I guess. But it's not going to do much of anything, and the cooldown on Tornado in this game is terrible, especially if you're doing the charge one, which is what's going to be dealing all the damage. It doesn't connect together to be that helpful, but you know, it's got that niche, I suppose. Next, just barely being faster at 8 minutes and 52 seconds, we've got Stone Kirby. Stone is powerful, and you can abuse its invincibility to do a lot of cool things. And as far as you know, I want to beat it. A lot of people say Stone is among the easiest. I disagree. I don't feel like most people actually have the patience to do it with Stone. And it's not a knock against any of you guys. I don't have the patience to do what people say to do with Stone either, because it's not fun. And who wants to do that, right? And then when you do use Stone efficiently, you know, it's okay. It's not the worst, but it's not that good either, right? Up next, we have one that makes me terrifically sad, the one clocking in at 8 minutes and 48 seconds. That is Bandana D. Bandana D has a benefit over Spear in that Bandana D never loses the Spear. But unfortunately, not only is Spear all that great, but Bandana D is just that much weaker as a payoff for never losing the Spear. And that just ultimately results in a run that is okay. There's not too much to say on Bandana D. I did go over Spear in the copy ability spotlight. We'll be going over Spear in a bit. Probably not too much because we got Bandana D here. But the damage is all right, and the range is very good. That's kind of its saving feature, I guess, is that it's got good range. But overall, Bandana D, unfortunately, is passable at best. Now we get into the B tier. This one, I believe, is the most populated of the tiers. This one being between 8 minutes and 8.5. This is where a fair amount of the abilities fall in. This is where I'd say the abilities start getting good. I don't think they're great by any means, but they're definitely good. You could, as you can see, you could do a lot worse. I know it's weird that I'm saying this because we're still in like the bottom 10, but abilities in this game are good. Return to Dreamland is very, I guess, unbalanced, you could say, in the regard that so many are good, but this is also kind of when they figured out, you know, how do we actually make abilities in this setup, or I'm sorry, this formula actually good. And we start off with Beam, which is sitting at 8 minutes and 27 seconds. I did do a spotlight on Beam, but unlike all the others, that spotlight's very different and not particularly accurate. Beam's problem again, it's not the strongest, but it does have pretty strong moves. The charge up doesn't take very long. It's got a command grab. It does really well against HRD3. That's its standout. But it's good. It's solidly good. It's got a lot of range. It deals good enough damage. Command grab deals incredible damage. It's just Return to Dreamland's got a lot of good abilities. So in comparison, it's good. It was actually almost one spot higher. It only missed it by 2 seconds. The next ability is Water, which is sitting at 8 minutes and 25 seconds. Again, very close. Water, I know a lot of people who mostly play the main game are probably thinking, no, Water in B, Water is broken. And it is in the main game. For boss rushes, it doesn't really have the tools that make it so good in the main game. I guess you could still argue that it's safe and very invincible, but when you're trying to do things quickly, the end lag on a lot of Water's attacks doesn't really help things, but it does have a lot of strong attacks. There are a lot of instances where you'd get hit with most abilities where you don't with Water. It allows you to play a little more recklessly in certain boss fights later on in that could save you time. You know, it's kind of merit which boss fights you need to play more recklessly, which ones you kind of want to be safe. It's an interesting one. I remember watching Water's boss rush and thinking, you know, I like this. There's not as much, you know, strategizing as I'm making there out to be, but I remember watching it and thinking, wow, we're going to keep this one remarkably brief because we talked about it before, but 8 minutes and 15 seconds, we got Spear. Spear's good. Like Bandanity, it's got the range. It's got better damage. DPS is pretty good. DPS being damage per second, yada, yada, yada. I don't want this video going on for too long, so we are moving on. To round out the bottom 10, you've probably heard me talk pretty negatively about this ability for Kirby Fighters 2. But it is actually pretty good in this game. It is Sword. Sword is just, it's the all-arounder, right? It's the one that kind of has everything, but it's not the master of anything. So it's no surprise that it's good, but it's also no surprise that it's not great. That's really what I can say. Spin attack does a lot of damage. It doesn't have the projectile, but it still has solid range. A lot of moves, a pretty good dash attack as far as getting to the bosses quickly. It's definitely an ability that's it's good. It's solid. I know I'm pretty much gonna say that about all of the ones in the B tier. It's once we get to the A tier that we start saying, all right, now it's getting cool. We are almost done though. We've only got 2 abilities left in this tier. I think I said Sword was at 8:13. That's time, 8 minutes 13 seconds, which is 2 seconds behind Spear. Just like Water and Beam, which is pretty interesting. The next one is at 8 minutes and 7 seconds. That is one of my personal favorite abilities, and I remember being very surprised when I saw this. I thought it was actually pretty bad. It is Whip. And the more I looked into it, the more I understood that, no, Whip is very good for the boss rushes. It's got a lot of multi-hits that deal really good damage on individual hits. It's got solid range. It's really safe. You don't have to worry about getting hit a lot, you know. Pretty much every single one of its attacks are good. It has command grab. Just overall, it is a very good ability for dealing with bosses. And again, it's just good, but kind of similar to what I was saying about Water. I was kind of expecting it to be really low just because I didn't think it was that good, but no, turns out I was wrong. It's actually quite good, and that makes me happy. Unfortunately, the next one is 4 seconds shorter and not 2, so that breaks the trend. But next we have the Demon in Triple Deluxe. We've got Fire. Let me switch that. Whip, work with me. Oh wait, no, that was right. Next we have Fire, which is sitting at 8 minutes and 3 seconds. Fire has a lot of really good attacks. Some of them just kind of take a while, but the Fire Breath has really good range. And you have a lot of high mobility attacks, like the down B in the air. If you land, you shoot forward. That's good for dealing with enemies that are close to walls, or if you got to get forward, get close to mini bosses. You've got when you hold B and press back, Kirby's whole body lights on fire. That deals good damage. For the most part, you are going to be kind of relying on those moves more than anything else. You know, you're not going to be using the dash attack too much, for example. But, you know, the moves that it's got are really good. And it just missed the cutoff for A tier. 8 minutes and 3 seconds is definitely not bad. I mean, neither is 8:07. And with that said, we are done with the B tier. We're about to head into the A tier. This one is also very populated. Not quite as much, but it's still pretty populated. So the next ability is remarkably close to the one above it. It's only off by 6 milliseconds, which would almost make it a tie. if it weren't for the actual milliseconds portion of it, which, of course, I will have to explain for this. But up next, we've got Leaf that is sitting at 7 minutes, 39 seconds, and 61 milliseconds. Now, Leaf is another one of those abilities that a lot of people say is completely busted in the main game. I don't know too much about it in speedrunning. I don't see too many people bring it up. But for the boss rushes, it is ridiculously good. It's got a lot of very strong attacks that deal damage fast. The Leaf Tornado, the up B where the leaf comes out of the ground, just that basic jab, I guess I'm going to call it, is ridiculously strong. The shield being totally invincible isn't as big a deal, I guess, but it comes in handy. It is ridiculously strong. The shield being totally invincible isn't as big a deal, I guess, but it comes in handy. Still... And it all just comes together to make it. Keep in mind, we're actually almost at the top 10 now. I know we're only at the 8 tier, but we're almost in the top 10. And Leaf is 6 milliseconds off of being in the top 10. So understand how good Leaf is. You know, we're at the 8 tier. These are great abilities now. That being said, what is the ability that just made the top 10, beat it by 6 seconds? You know, Kirby speedrunning, it had to cheat its way in here somehow. We got Wing. So, I'm not going to say anything about Wing for normal speedrunning. That's kind of a video in itself, how unhealthy I actually think Wing is for modern Kirby. But for boss rushes, I think it's totally fine. And there's some actually really cool tech that you can use. For example, if you do the Condor Dive, which is the aerial down B, you can jump out of that and do another one almost immediately after. And because of its hitbox, you can actually keep relatively safe and do it over and over. Really, really cool. The dash attack actually does do damage, and it's not that bad. The normal shoot is pretty quick. That one's more valuable for beginners, I guess, but, you know, this is for, you know, more optimized. And when you get to more optimized, Wing does have some really cool tech. You can see on the screen from what I'm saying, yada, yada. But overall, it's fast, it's strong, it's... Despite being everything you need and more for the main game, it is also very, very competent in the boss rush mode. It's great. Gets in the top 10. Sorry, Leaf. That's really sad. 6 milliseconds. I can't believe it. Up next is, I believe this is the last of the basics. Yeah. So there are a few abilities in Kirby that are staples, you know, beam, sword, stuff like that. They're early game, they're simple, you don't really think too much of them, right? We saw a sword, that one was actually pretty good. We saw a beam, again, kind of good. But Cutter is very good in Return to Dreamland's True Arena, and that is just because it's fast and it's strong. The Cutter blades come out super fast. The range is very good. The supercharged one, that one deals a ton of damage. And I mean, it's mostly those, right? It's dash attack. I'll bring up its dash attack here because it has almost no cooldown. So if you want to deal damage with it, it's actually a very legitimate way of dealing damage because you can do dash attack, turn around, and do final cutter, and it happens in a second. It's super quick. It does good damage, very good range. Up close options, far away. It is very good for dealing with bosses, especially because Kirby bosses like to fly around the screen, and a lot of abilities kind of struggle to keep up with the bosses, so to speak. But Cutter, it just throws Cutter blades. It'll hit stuff. It throws a charged Cutter blade, and there are walls. Forget it. That thing will be bouncing and bouncing. It'll do so much damage. I don't know if I mentioned Cutter is sitting at 7 minutes and 36 seconds. Which is faster enough than Wing to not be super close. However, the ability above it is sitting at 7:35, which is 1 second off. And I mean, I'm happy that I got top 10. I wish it was a little bit better, but my baby, my favorite, my love and joy, it's Parasol. In this game, Parasol is not the ability that's the hardest to explain. It's difficult to use properly, but the run is basically the grounded down B. That's basically what this run amounts to. And it's super good in Return to Dreamland. Really fast, really spammable. And don't get me wrong, you know, you see uses for Parasol Drill, you see uses for Parasol Dive, Parasol Swing. It doesn't have a back hit like in Kirby Fighters 2, sorry. But still, it has its functions, but it's mostly just Parasol Twirl that makes it so good. Now, Parasol Twirl is one of the best moves in the game for dealing with bosses. And that's why it is in the A tier, and it's great, right? We're at the point where, you know, being able to clear this, it's not that, it's just over a minute behind the #1 ability. Again, not to say what the #1 ability is, but it's not far off from being a minute longer. And considering how good that ability is, I don't think that's something to be ashamed of. This is a great ability for the boss rush mode. 1 second longer than the ability above it. That's right. Cutter was 1 second above Parasol, and Parasol is 1 minute above the ability that sits at 734. The best ability in the A tier, that is Bomb. Now, for those who know Star Allies, you'll know Bomb as far and away the best ability for the ultimate choice because you get Air Bomb Spam. Air Bomb Spam is not a thing that you get in this game. You don't get to combine abilities together, so Bomb is stuck with its default kit. And in Star Allies, I don't know too much about every individual ability in that game. I'm pretty sure Bomb is kind of bad, but I'm not positive. But in this game, it's excellent just because it's fast, it deals a lot of damage. The bomb bowling deals so much damage in this game. It is so strong, and they come out so fast, and they cover everything. You throw it in the air, it'll just, that area that you threw it on, that horizontal line and below, it's covered. And if you need to cover above Kirby for whatever reason, probably not. But the normal bomb throw, that's fine too. The bomb that plants on the ground, that bomb as a projectile, it deals so much damage. It's not as fast and consistent as Cutter, I guess. I mean, they're 2 seconds apart. But just the extra strength that Bomb has, I think. The strength that Bomb has on its not charged attacks, because Bomb doesn't have charged attacks, just really helps give it the edge over Parasol and Cutter. These abilities are just, they're incredible, right? They are some of the best for clearing the game. Super fast. I said before that 7.5 minutes is the cutoff. And we're not too far from 7.5 minutes, but, you know, you've got abilities that are legitimately very great, like Cutter, Parasol, and Bomb, that can't get 7.5. And these abilities, you know, they're almost 20 seconds faster than 730. Not to mention Bomb 734. So these abilities are just absolutely incredible. And we start off with yet another tie. The first one might surprise people. It is King Dedede. The reason I say this might surprise people is because if you know Kirby speedrunning, you know that hammer is, how do I want to put this? Ridiculous and broken and unfair. But Dedede has some problems. First, and the big one, is that he is similar to Bandana D, strictly weaker than Hammer. Yeah, Kirby can lose Hammer, but Dedede can't, which is nice, but you're going to try not to lose Hammer anyway. And even if you do, the amount of time that you'll lose more than makes up for the damage difference. Dedede is surprisingly weaker than Hammer. But, I mean, I know I said first, but that's really the only one that comes to mind. I think he has better range than Hammer in this game. I'm not positive. If he does, it's not that much better. His aerial attack, where Kirby has the hammer swing, where he goes in the circle or the multiple, Dedede just has the normal hammer pound that he has on the ground. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. It might be pretty big, but I just know that I'll talk about Hammer when we get to Hammer, but Dedede, super good. Shame he misses the top 5, though, and again, it's by milliseconds, similar to how Leaf missed because of Wing. But unlike Wing, this next ability doesn't destroy speedrunning. Up next, sitting at 7 minutes, 11 seconds, and 18 milliseconds, so it's a bit of a longer gap, is Fighter. Fighter just, it has a lot of moves, and they deal a lot. Fighter is strong. It can cover a lot of area on the screen, and it's just always dealing damage. I mean, it's kind of hard at this point to say anything beyond just, like, they're that good. I mean, it's got the Hadouken, it's got the Shoryuken, it's got the dive kick, it's got the rapid jab, it's got the command throw. That's actually a really good point to bring up. It's got a command throw. It has the kit that it needs to be really good in the boss rush mode. And it's only number 5. Up next, I was actually a little bit surprised. I was expecting this one to be number 3 or number 2. I was surprised to see Meta Knight at number 4. Shuttle Loop? Star Allies Sizzle Shuttle Loop breaks the game. It's unhealthy for a similar reason that Wing is unhealthy. But in Return to Dreamland, Shuttle Loop is still really good, but it deals a lot of damage to the bosses. And I mean, of course, you know, Meta Knight has other good moves too, right? It's not just Shuttle Loop, but Shuttle Loop is good. It's really good, and that's the big reason that Meta Knight is so good. Similar to what Cutter does, it can just chase bosses anywhere on the screen, but unlike Cutter, like, that's Meta Knight. So unlike Cutter, where, you know, you actually have to throw it first, Meta Knight's just, nah, my attacks come out right away, and I do all this damage, and it's ridiculous and crazy, and Meta Knight can clear the boss rush in 7 minutes and 7 seconds. Insanity. But number 3, and this one surprised me. Number 2, I knew number 2 going in. But this one kind of took me off guard. Ice. Now, I know Ice is ridiculous in Planet Robobot. I did not know it was as ridiculous here. And, you know, it's the same thing that I've been saying all along that I just have to repeat. Crazy damage, crazy hitboxes, crazy frame data, all that stuff. It's comparable to Fire in some ways, mostly just in that their normal B attack is basically the same for all intents and purposes. Ice's range is a little bit worse. But where the differences come in is just the damage and the speed at which Ice deals damage. That's where the difference comes in. And obviously what's on the screen is explaining itself. It really cannot be said enough just how powerful in this game Ice is. And that's actually really surprising. It's cool because Ice is one of the best abilities for this, and it's also definitely top 5 speedrunning the main game material. Ice is number 3. I said my spiel on it plenty. Excellent ability, super duper good. While 6:59 is very impressive, it's somehow got under 7 minutes. This one sits at 6:42. By process elimination, you've probably figured it out already. It's Ninja. So, of course, Ninja has command grab. That's always a good point to start with, right? But it also has that attack when you're close to the opponent. He pulls out the little sword, slashes in front of it, and then slashes them again, and it lets out a shockwave. That is where Ninja's dominance comes in. Whether you use it in the air or on the ground, Ninja is just so strong. And it's so big, too. That slash, the sword's not that big, but the slash hitbox is gigantic, and the wave, and you can really get away in the true arena with mostly using that. Ninja also has a dive kick. It also, like I said, has the command grab. The kunai don't really see any use because they're very weak, but Ninja's moveset, it has stuff, but you mostly just need the moves that make it as dominant as it is. And while 6:42 is very impressive, we actually do have an ability that is sitting at 6:30, which by my definition just barely makes the cutoff for SS. Y'all know, no other ability to be described as the best in the game. You know it's got to be Hammer. I could just tell, I probably should just tell you to watch the spotlight on this one, actually. I could say what I said in the spotlight, but I don't want to forget anything, and that video was scripted. So I'm going to plug, I'll link the spotlight in the video itself, as I will for a couple of other of these. That is it. That is the tier list. To go over again from bottom to top really quick, ignoring the bottom 3 because you can't use them. We have High Jump at 12 minutes 3 seconds, Spark at 10 minutes and 38 seconds, Needle at 9 minutes and 13 seconds, Tornado at 8 minutes and 56 seconds, Stone at 8 minutes and 52 seconds, Bandana D at 8 minutes and 48 seconds, Beam at 8 minutes and 27 seconds, Water at 8 minutes and 25 seconds, Spear at 8 minutes and 15 seconds, Sword at 8 minutes and 13 seconds, Whip at 8 minutes and 7 seconds, Fire at 8 minutes and 3 seconds, Leaf at 7 minutes 39 seconds 61 milliseconds, Wing at 7 minutes 39 seconds 55 milliseconds, Cutter at 7 minutes 36 seconds, Parasol at 7 minutes 35 seconds, Bomb at 7 minutes 34 seconds, Day-to-Day at 7 minutes 11 seconds and 95 milliseconds, Fighter at 7 minutes 11 seconds 18 milliseconds, Meta Knight at 7 minutes 7 seconds, Ice at 6 minutes 59 seconds, Ninja at 6 minutes 42 seconds, and Hammer at a dominant 6 minutes 30 seconds. Wow. You'll hear me talk in more detail about these when we get to these abilities and the spotlights, or if I've covered them already, you've already heard me talk about them in more detail. Other than that, I've been Kirby Fan. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.